Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the organizer, for accepting our paper. I'm Syahirah Abdul Shukor, together with my colleague Dr. Hanim Kamaruddin, Dr. Dina Imam Supaat, Dr. Rashika Muhammad Khalid, Dr. Normawati Hashim. We're going to present on a paper entitled National and International Policies Governing Haze in Malaysia, a move forward towards a greener future. This paper basically is on haze crisis. Is one of the worst disaster that ever hit Malaysia and the neighbouring countries, Singapore and Indonesia. Haze pollution caused harm to the economy and public health of the three countries. The transboundary haze caused by Indonesian forest fires constitute regional and international harm. According to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, the haze poses a security risk and, to extension, a human security risk. The transboundary haze in Southeast Asia can be traced back to the ongoing oil palm boom in Indonesia, bolstered by patronage networks, and Malaysia, as one of the world's largest producers of palm oil, to invest in Indonesia. There have been suggestions to put legal redress in facing the haze crisis. The suggestion of shared responsibility in the cases of transboundary air pollution should be enforced by all parties for the sake of public interest. This paper examines the roles of state responsibility in dealing with air pollution and the roles of ASEAN countries in dealing with transboundary air pollution. It concludes the suggestion that the companies as key players in the palm oil industry also play a pivotal role in keeping the unpolluted environment. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss on what actually the problem statement, the literature review, the environmental issues under Constitution, Malaysian environmental laws and policies, environmental law at Asian level, and concluding remarks. Haze pollution has become common in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. Recurring incident recorded since 1997. The tradition of clearing lands by fire has been practiced since before colonial rule and carried out blatantly to clear massive size of forests and also for replanting. Public concern about transboundary haze crisis experienced every year since late 1990s. Haze not only impact the social health and economy of the three countries, but also the diplomatic ties. It creates not only tension and uneasiness in the diplomatic ties of the three countries in facing the disaster effects, but also the spirit of ASEAN relationship. After some serious incidents of the man-made disaster, which caused severe air pollution in Malaysia, the government introduced prudent policies to deal and manage the matter while working hand in hand with ASEAN members. This paper discusses the prominent regional environmental crisis, the issues of transboundary air pollution conflict in Asian countries, namely the haze, the state responsibility under international law, and the roles of the non-state actors, that is cooperation in facing the challenges issue of transboundary air pollution. The negative effects of deforestation through burning is highly destructive, and we have discovered this and caused various collateral problems. And Malaysia's, Indonesia and Singapore are badly affected by the haze pollution. Several efforts have been initiated by the Malaysian government as well as the neighbouring states, but the result is very slowly materializing. Now that haze does not seriously hit Malaysia in 2016, we would like to think that the effort has finally takes effect, so it is time to reflect on what has been done and what should be done to keep haze at bay. Based on the literature review that we found, the issue of global environment has emerged, and the language of rights also has pushed the right to a health environment. It was only in 1972, during the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, the first summit, that really put the issue of global political agenda. Despite the agreement, it was agreed that each country had a duty not to pollute others and that threatened species needed international protection. Since then, there have been extensive agreement on environment. The Aarhus Convention is a right-based approach. The public, both in the present and in future generations, have the right to know and to live in a healthy environment. Besides international law, international environmental agreement and protocols have been introduced at the international level. Thus, environmental issues are not easily tackled as it depends on the state itself to respond to such problem. Hoffman has written this in 1976. Due to the pressure at international level, there are two ways in tackling environmental issues. Firstly, by way of international law. Secondly, by way of rules of state responsibility. Yet, it is not an easy way, even it is by rule of state responsibility. So, the crisis that we have witnessed experienced in 1997, 2005 and 2013 and 10 June 2002, the ASEAN members nations signed the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This was the first regional proposal in the world that aimed to mitigate and prevent haze pollution through concentration nationwide efforts and increased regional and worldwide cooperation. The agreement lacked measurable obligation and implementation. Both ASEAN treaty and cooperation have been hindered by certain normative constraints, organization custom and also domestic politics. And on 25th September 2014, Singapore's new Transboundary Haze Pollution Act came into operation. The Act is a dramatic piece of legislation that creates extraterritorial liability for entities engaging in setting fire abroad that cause transboundary smoke or pollution in Singapore. Despite a growing number of treaty ratification, compliance with standards remain elusive. As a result, it places great pressure to ASEAN itself. Although the Charter of ASEAN states that one of purposes is to promote sustainable development as to ensure the protection of the region's environment, the sustainability of its natural resources, the preservation of its cultural heritage, and the high quality of life of its people, it has been challenging for each ASEAN states to tackle issue of the region's environment, which lead each environment government has its own styles and measures in facing this. Domestic laws have been insufficient to control and prevent transboundary haze from activities by foreign vested agricultural companies in Indonesia or Malaysia. Thus, an international mechanism might be possible in imposing accountability to haze polluters in Indonesia and Malaysia. Translating those words into actions are not easy for developing countries in Asian regions. Yet, the future for green environment might not be achieved if everyone remains silent to environment issues. Environmental issues under the constitution of each country provide basic principle of freedom to the citizen as well as to non-citizen. As pointed by Richard P. Hiskis, 2009, that constitution where societies that are to guide political and social discourse for generations to come, and also where these values are protected by incorporating them as constitutional obligation or right. Portugal was the first country to include the right to set out the right to a healthy and ecological sustainable environment as well as the duty to preserve it. As for Malaysia, Article 5 of the Federal Constitution guarantees the right to life and liberty, as can be seen in the case of Tan Teck Seng against Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Pendidikan 1996, 1 MLJ at page 261, where the Court of Appeal followed the trend in Indian court decision that life incorporates all those facets that are integrated part of life itself, and which matters form the quality of life. However, in the case of pihak berkuasa negeri Sabah against Sukumar Balakrishnan 2002, 3 MLJ at page 72, the Federal Court narrowed down the term right to life to only mean personal liberty and nothing else. Hence, there is no clear provision which mention the right to a healthy and unpolluted environment in the Federal Constitution. Due to the shortfalls of the government in handling environmental issues, the communities have no other to choose but to protect the environment themselves. Constitutional protection of fundamental rights required a balanced approach between safeguarding the interests of the state and the needs of the people. Malaysia's environmental laws and policies seem fall far short of their promise despite the time consumed in producing such laws and policies. Organizations like Sahabat Alam Malaysia and Consumer Agency have been trying to build the capacity of Malaysians in facing environment issues in the society. The Malaysian government also has ratified several international conventions related to the protection of environment. The Environmental Quality Act EQA 1974, through its amendment in 2007, invoked Section 43 to expand liability or punishment for offences against the EQA to a company, firm, society, or other body of person, any person who at the time of commission of the offence was a director, chief executive officer, manager, or other similar officer, or partner of the company, firm, or society, or other body of person. There is limitation to enforce this provision, as it requires officers within local registered company that carries out activities within Malaysian boundary and not beyond. Thus, at ASEAN levels, the possibility to negotiate among the states are open. At ASEAN levels, the cooperation in the aspect of environmental protection has deepened among the countries. Yet, the transboundary haze pollution is perhaps one of the most controversial issues as regard to ASEAN environmental cooperation. According to Varkey 2017, 3 themes can be deduced from the issue of haze, namely the ASEAN way is very much about sovereignty and non-interference, but issues of transboundary pollution clearly challenges these time-honored regional norms. Second theme is regional haze governance. Finally, the source of the haze producing fires has led to a closer investigation of the political economy of the region, which lead to hard issues. It seems that the traditional positivism view of international law as state-oriented remain as dominant in matters. The effect of haze pollution affected not only the health of the public but also daily activities of the members of society. On 19 October 2015, due to the impact of choking smoke from Indonesian slash and burn farming that has smoothed much of Southeast Asia in smoke for weeks, Malaysia closed schools in several states. Thus, it begs us to ask whether the victims of haze pollution has right to be protected from polluted environment. In Article 18 of the Declaration of the Basic Principle of Justice for Victims of Crime and Abuse Power, state the rights to environmental victims. Despite the above-mentioned article is non-binding, soft law instrument, it highlights the importance of the rights of the victims to access justice, fair treatment, and compassion and respect for their dignity. The application of human rights law in environmental law remains underdeveloped. In the early year 2000, victims in cases of environmental rarely receive attention by the Malaysian courts. Compared to other criminal cases, the rights of victims will get quick response. As pointed by Sahabat Alam, It is a sad scenario that the members of the judiciary to deny Malaysians to the right to clean, healthy and safe environment, even though there is right to life in the federal constitution. In addition, it seems like there is still lack of political will to change. In conclusion, the preceding discussion shows that Malaysia and other Asian countries need to practice proactive and defensive approach in protecting the environment. It takes almost 20 years of concerted effort to deal with haze issues before the region and really see the result. With that, we welcome any questions pertaining to this paper. Okay, thank you for listening.